when it didn't work out, I had no idea who I was. And so I pulled my little keyboard back out and I started playing those cover songs that I taught myself so long ago, and started learning more, and then saw Paramore for like the third time and cried watching Hayley Williams because I could feel her energy, and just thought to myself, like, if I could just have even a taste of what she's feeling on stage right now.
Follow me along. Podcast and stuff. We just started. Who am I here with today?
I'm MIEARS from Houston, Texas.
Who is MIEARS?
MIEARS, I am a solo producer, singer, songwriter. That's who I am in the music world.
I'm kind of amazed you said that, because I think when I describe you to people, that's what I was saying. I was like, see, since it's 2018, she's a singer-songwriter. She's just doing it on the producer level now. Because I was like, yo, if this was 25 years ago, she might be on a guitar or piano, you know?
Right.
So I was like, because I get that sense from your music.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this girl is like a singer-songwriter, like right away.
Yeah, I feel like from the beginning, because I started in a band, I started in the role of singer-songwriter. And I gradually learned production through observation, and just I was just interested. I mean, it was intriguing to me, and I didn't even really know that world existed until I kind of became a part of a group that kind of did it together. So I feel like I started as a singer-songwriter and then evolved, but now I like to put it first in my descriptor, just because I think it's important for people to understand that I do produce all my music myself.
Got you.
Yeah.
What genre was the other band?
Same. It was like synth pop, yeah. And it's funny, just being in that band opened my eyes to bands and musicians, both old and new, that I had honestly never heard of, and sounds that I had never heard in my life. I mean, I liked electronic music, but my bandmates were, especially one of them, Chris, was like, and is super into more like retro, like vintage synths, and just like mixing old with new. And I feel like I just picked up a lot on that sound and the influences that I guess I gathered throughout the process of working with them, but then also the influences that I know and love from even before my time with that band. So, it ended up being, I guess, because I wrote the songs for BLSHS and write them for myself.
Is that the name of the...
Yeah, BLSHS. No vowels. BLSHS, no vowels.
Is that what you had to say? BLSHS, no vowels.
Well, we took
everybody?
the vowels out. If anyone wants to look it up,
because just the when every time, I've only seen you twice, but every time you do that, you're like MIEARS, and you're like my and then ears. Yeah. So I feel like for every name you have to like explain it to people. Yeah,
because I want them to find me, and my last name is my artist name, and it is spelled very. It's weird because BLSHS, we took the vowels out, and MIEARS has all the vowels. It's like three vowels crammed in the middle. So it's just confusing.
So when you said it's your name, what made you use your name as your artist name? Or because just that name, that since it's your last name, like it still sounds kind of like, oh, okay, this could be an artist, like different.
Exactly. That's why I chose it. I had a couple names in mind that were like off the wall, just like, I don't know. I think one of them was Indio, because it was like a town in California that my grandparents used to live in. I thought it sounded cool, but it just didn't. I didn't have enough of a connection with it to be like, oh, this is who I am as an artist. And it's like, ultimately, I'm me. I'm doing, I'm producing and making all the songs and recording them all from my home studio. And everything you hear in the songs completely comes from my mind. And the only thing was that I didn't want to be Michelle MIEARS, because I felt like that sounded too much like Mariah Carey, or like, I don't know. That's not who I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a... diva performer. That's when I hear first last name.
Is that what that is?
I think of someone like Whitney Houston or like Demi Lovato.
It's been changing lately. Like, I don't know if you would count them, but like Rihanna and Beyonce.
Yeah, but they're one-name monikers.
But this is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, well, the newer ones are one-namers.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I went with my last name because it is
and
ambiguous.
You're a one-namer.
Vague. I wanted to be a one-namer, but I didn't want to just be Michelle.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the newer ones the newer divas are one-namers.
For sure.
You might be...
Oh,
you might be joining that team.
But yeah, no, I like how you see the name and you don't know how to pronounce it. You don't know if it's a band or a solo act. You don't know if it's a male or a female. And I liked that about it. And it's also easy to, it's a unique hashtag.
Got you.
It's unique. It's not, if you
were
hashtag
thinking all
that,
of it, branding and everything.
Yeah, branding. It's just like kind of all around. It made sense for me.
Got you. How do you get into music in the first place?
I honestly just naturally gravitated to it. But my grandparents were musicians for a very long time. And they... my grandpa started in a band called the Sparkles, and he wrote and performed songs with that band until he and my grandmother had kids. And then he kind of focused on his family. But then my grandma and grandpa, Nana and Papa, they both started like a country dance hall band, and they went and performed all around the country together for years, even with the kids at home and everything. Like they were really dedicated to it and made a lot of extra money and saved up and loved doing it, and they were really wonderful. And I kind of grew up around their instruments and knowing that that's what they did. But ultimately, my best friend had a piano, and when I met her when I was 10 years old, I just looked up to her a lot, and she played, and I wanted to play too, so I started to teach myself. And then when I hit 6th grade and you have to choose what fine art you do, I chose marching band at the time, and I chose to play the flute. And then I stuck with it through high school, and during high school I learned I tried out for the drum line, and I played snare. And so I was always finding new instruments and wanting to kind of teach myself to play, or pushing boundaries, or pushing myself to to be the best I could with music. And then I took a little break from it when I graduated high school, and I was in a relationship that didn't end up working out. And when it didn't work out, I had no idea who I was. And so I pulled my little keyboard back out, and I started playing those cover songs that I taught myself so long ago, and started learring more. And then saw Paramore for like the 3rd time, and cried watching Hayley Williams because I could feel her energy, and just thought to myself, like, if I could just have even a taste of what she's feeling on stage right now. And singing, I never did in front of anybody, ever. Just
that's crazy, because you're really good. I feel like that's the first thing that stood out to me.
Thanks. And that's not, I was more of an instrument player. I liked being in a big, team, like a band, where I could blend in and I was a part of something bigger. And that's why I thought, like, and that's why I always wanted to be in bands, because it is really cool to work with other people and to accomplish something together, to create something together, and then to execute it on a stage. There's no better feeling to me than that. So I feel like that's like a kind of medium, longish, shortish version of a long
even
story.
Though this overall podcast is going to be short, technically, as long as it needs to be,
Yeah.
because that's what we do.
So
what you said, when is that when you start singing? Then when you pull out the keyboard?
When I pulled out the keyboard, and then it just was circumstantial. Like
were you that good at the time, or
no?
Since you were only doing it in private.
Oh yeah, and major stage fright, like crippling, debilitating stage fright. So I was like, there's no way I'll ever get to do this in public, because I'm way too scared to do it. But then circumstantially, I had a certain group of friends that, dating a guy at the time who played drums, and, his brother played guitar, and they like, hey, you've told us you can sing, come sing. Like, let's play some Paramore songs and try this. Tried it, completely failed. Horrible stage fright, my first experience on a microphone with other humans in the room, no monitors, tiny tiny little room, could not hear myself, completely backed into just completely clammed up. It was a horrible experience. And I was like, I'll never do this again. I guess I'm throwing in the towel. That was my career. I got kicked out of the band. They told me I wasn't progressing quickly enough. But something told me, like, don't give up. Like, go do something. So I signed up for music lessons in Houston, and I ended up going to this children's school for music. Like, I signed up for piano and vocal lessons, and I thought, well, this will be a good way to kind of learn to be in front of another person and sing or play piano and kind of start getting over that hump. So I did that. I played a couple of little open mics. I forgot my lyrics at a yogurt shop in front of a ton of parents because I was the oldest student there. The other students were like anywhere between 5 and 10 years old singing, and it was like a recital. And I go to sing this Imogen Heap song called Little Bird, and I completely forget like the third. It's a song where it's like verse, 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 verse. There's really never
a chorus.
There's a couple like repeating themes, but there's not really a chorus. So I'm on maybe verse 3, and I literally blank out. And I'm like, I turn around and look for my vocal teacher, and she's like, sing. So yeah, I had a lot of like really weird, horrible moments, and I never thought that to me, that was a huge accomplishment.
That's why you get, because apparently if you had a bunch of horrible moments, but you kept going,
not good. Yeah.
Eventually you're like, all right, don't hit this, don't hit that, don't hit this. And you're like, all right.
And I'm skipping over a couple things. Like I did a thing with my brother. I got to sing backing vocals. That was a huge help to me because I was kind of hidden and I wasn't in the forefront. I was hidden behind lights and fog.
So now you're
and
protected.
I was protected. That was another little baby step. And then, so ultimately through my little lessons that I was taking, I expressed to my piano teacher kind of like what my goals were and the fact that these are the artists that I look up to, and this is who I wish I could be like these artists, and I wish I could do this one day. And he networked me with who became my BLSHS bandmates. And then I just pushed myself into the situation and got over it. I don't know. It's always been hard. It's hard every time I step on a stage. It's hard, but I've just never stopped. And once I got a taste of being on stage and that little taste that I wanted to have, like when I looked at Hayley Williams and I could see what she was feeling and wanted it so bad, once I finally got my little taste of that, I've never stopped. I love it. Even though it's a challenge every single time.
That's good. So like, and maybe you kind of answered this already, but as I keep monitoring this, sometimes I forget, even though I said it. So BLSHS ends, and then what makes you like start as solo, like not go group, you know?
I was obsessed with BLSHS. I thought it was like my ticket to this is it. Like we had a really great run. We had really good chemistry. We made really good music that I really loved to perform, and had an amazing time writing and producing and making music with them. And in Houston, we had an awesome year. It was like 2014. We got to play like Free Press Summerfest. We played multiple gigs. Like I couldn't have even imagined that something like that could happen to me, because coming from having such horrible stage fright and such like tiny humble beginnings of like, wow, I just sang in a yogurt shop, I'm so happy, I can't believe I did it, to being on like these huge stages with my band. I mean, it was a huge accomplishment just to finish and write my very first song with them and put it out there and put it on SoundCloud, and to get one listen was like, this is amazing. We've made it. This is so cool. Yeah. I'm in a band. I'm in a band.
First time is amazing.
Yeah. And so we had this amazing time, and I just tend to be this like go person. Like I said, once I got that taste of it, I was like, what's next? Let's take the next step and the next step and the next step. And I just think that ultimately goals changed. I feel like they were in different places in their lives, and we just had a hard time for a while making our schedules work. I just think it was life, and one of my bandmates had a baby, and I think one of my bandmates probably would have been more content not playing as we pushed and we played a lot in one year, and I think not everyone likes to play that much. Some people just like to make the music, and so I don't know. We just didn't line up, I guess, in some of those ways, and I think they just needed a little breather, and I didn't. I wanted to keep going. I'm very restless when it comes to music. I always want to be making it or performing it. So that was hard for me. It was kind of like a boyfriend telling you that they need space, and you're like, wow, what do I do? This has been my entire existence. So I started making songs by myself. Because of my experience with them, and because like I had gotten to a point where all my vocal recording was being done in Logic, and then I was like composing songs in Logic with mostly MIDI and mostly stock Logic sounds. And then I would send the MIDI data to my bandmate because they worked in Ableton. And then we'd import the MIDI data and he would switch out and use better, you know, like either his hardware synths and run it through his synths or whatever, just to kind of give the BLSHS flavor to it, because a lot of that sound came from the synths that Chris owned. So I started learning to do that and kind of sketch my ideas out within a DAW, and I didn't know how to do that in the very, very beginning. So I felt like I had a good starting point, and I was like, hey, I can, you know, I'm kind of doing this already. I just have to really wrap my head around the entire process, because we really had our duties split up. I was all vocals, all lyrics, some synth. Chris was synth and arrangement, and we were all kind of arrangement when we'd get in a room together. Rick was percussion, like he was the guy, and he was great at it. He was drums. Any drums you hear on a BLSHS album is him, absolutely. And so I was like, okay, I've got to make sure I can do every piece of this now. I don't have my team. I don't have this, you know, collective brain bouncing ideas around. I've got to make sure that I can compose and produce and arrange and write and record the entire song by myself. So I started doing that. And I will say, like I even said earlier, I feel like at the tip of the iceberg. I definitely think from my first EP, that was me just like completely trying to wrap my arms around the process. And that was the best I could do at the time with the gear I had and the knowledge I had. And I could have sat on it.
The name of that? Is that the one with like 5 or 6 songs? So I was hearing a bunch of stuff on Spotify.
Who Will Save You? Yeah.
That one.
That's my first EP, yeah. And that was a product of, you know, just me learning. And yeah, I probably could have like sat around and waited until I was really, really good at it and, you know, put out something better. But I was antsy. I wanted to get something out and I wanted to get out and play again. So
I'm a big fan of making stuff, put it out and get better that way.
Yeah, because then you can, then you have something to gauge yourself off of. So this album that I just finished and I'm currently mixing, I personally feel like I've improved. And I think that that's something that's been hard for me to, I guess, reconcile in my head, because I can also be very hard on myself and I can get very down and think I'm not good. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough at this. And you hear other songs and you're like, well, why doesn't mine sound? Because when you're doing it all DIY from home and then you listen to like the quality of this recording versus your recording and you're going, well, you know, why is my production quality not the same as that? What am I doing wrong? But I think that questioning of yourself is what pushes you to go out and search more and find more tutorials and learn more and improve your process each time. And so again, this album that I'm working to finish right now is another product of exactly where I am today as an artist and exactly what my brain understands about the process with the tools that I have in front of me. And I'll be proud of it just because I think anybody should be proud that puts out their art and is brave enough to do that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'll say 2 things on what you were saying about getting better and stuff.
Yeah.
It will happen over time. The first one, that's the obvious one, the boring answer. You know, like as you do 100 songs and whatever, like you will get better. Because one of the reasons is like they've just mixed forever. And a lot of those guys that you're comparing themselves, like they don't make music. They mix or master and that's it. You know, like, so they're just killers at that. Right. They may have came from making music, but now 99% of their time is just mixing. Yeah. And they know a lot of stuff that we haven't even thought of yet, you know?
No,
so a lot
of
those guys are demons. Like I was taught by a guy who's like he's won a Grammy. He's really good. And he's still, the way when I hear him talk, I still have no idea what he's talking about. But like, that's what he does, you know? Like that's his thing.
Now I do have my stuff mixed and mastered.
I don't, because I'm stubborn, but I want to do it like, myself.
Everything you hear on stage, like I have learned to mix to a point where I can have a mixed and mastered.
Yeah, but you're talking about the recording.
For the recording, yeah. But so when
that's the right thing to do, but I won't do it.
But I think the mix is a huge component of like the final product.
For sure.
And I think, you know, on the last round I had noise issues and I wasn't, just my ear wasn't trained as much to...
And that's the time thing.
Yeah.
I was talking about just doing it.
Yeah, and I think my mixing engineer this time around was like, yeah, you have improved. It's a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to mix. And I, even within the mixing process, have a way better understanding of what I want things to sound like, and like the feedback that I give them and everything. I feel like we're really bouncing off of each other during this mixing process of, whereas last time I was kind of like, I don't, yeah.
know what you're doing.
Yeah. So
now you can verbalize things more.
I can verbalize it more. I can explain what I'm hearing or what I want to hear and where I need it to go. And that's a cool feeling in itself. Yeah, to be able to verbalize things.
Yeah, man.
That's a huge
The second
deal.
thing that'll make you better, which I'm not a big fan of, but it is true, because I'm a lot of my things that hold me back, I'm just stubborn. But you were talking to him before about it, just using better samples.
Yeah.
That is like the easy cheat.
Yeah, for
and it
sure.
works a lot in the poppier musics.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it used to be like, just use better samples at your drums, but sometimes like, or just the whole music can just be samples, and now you're not even doing that. You probably wouldn't do that because you play.
Right.
But a lot of people do that, and that's the easy way
Well,
to sound great.
Well, I don't do loops for sure.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The only, I mean, obviously, I'm trying to think like, okay, if I use a string sound, that's a sample.
Yeah, but I was just saying, like, going to places like Splice and stuff, those are easy ways to upgrade,
yeah.
you know? So
No, but like my drums, I definitely bought a couple kits, like of sample hits, not loops. I don't ever stick like a loop in there of like a pre-made beat or anything like that. But like my kick sounds are now,
they're just better ones.
They're just better kicks.
I am stubborn. I do have a few that friends have forced on me.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's them being like, stop being an ass, you know, just like, but I come from, like I was telling, New York, so I come from hip hop. And, you know, I will, even if I'm doing like EDM stuff, like, yo, won't say who to protect me, but, you know, I come from the sample era where I'm like, I'm gonna cut out a kick from here, I'm gonna cut out snare from here.
Yeah.
And I know it ain't gonna sound tight, but it's different. It's unique, and no one has it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it will sound tight, but it just doesn't sound as pristine as the cleanness that some genres might demand, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was like, I'm always trying to figure out James Blake and all his
It's one of my favorite homies. Like, I've been involved in a lot of this so much that I'm super jaded.
Yeah.
So I don't really have fun at shows as much as I used to unless I'm working it.
Yeah.
But James Blake was the last person I saw who I was like,
so
I want to see
incredible.
him. I was alive. He's great. It was at Moody Theater, actually.
And I saw him last at Day for Night.
Oh, yeah.
But I also got to see him at House of Blues with Moses Sumney opening.
I don't know who that is.
Man.
Is that who I need to look up?
So good. Yes. Yeah.
All right.
But like, so I'm always Googling like, what freaking synth? Like, because I bought a Prophet. I bought a Prophet Rev 2.
Yeah.
Mostly because of
him?
James Blake.
I don't know if you can. I think at home he might be a different beast than on the road.
I would love to know. I know that.
You know his whole history, or like, because you know he comes from like dubstep land and stuff, so he has a lot of powers that like he's probably not taking on the road. He even prefaces it before shows, talking about like, we try and do this live with no computers and stuff.
Right.
So he's not even using the same stuff
Exactly.
he makes. So like,
But I do know that I think the primary synth sounds in what album is it? That's it's not the one that Retrogrades on, and it's not the most recent. It's the first one.
Oh, damn, that's the one I like the least.
Oh, and I love the first.
It has covers on it versus the rest to me are like all him.
True.
So they're good covers.
That's true.
But I felt like that's him, like, you know, just being like, all right, this is the safe route.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's like, all right, I'm all me. I don't care no more, you know?
Well, but I think he does use a Prophet as one of his primary synths.
Okay.
Still, even in the recordings. But anytime I've looked up, like, how to get, you know, that kick, like, how do I get a James Blake sounding kick?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because somebody answered in the forum. They were like, just sample his kick. His stuff is super minimal, and there's so much space around it. If you wanted, you could just sample his kick. And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
It's true.
Do it.
I haven't done it.
Do it.
But
tell me that you're not going to do it, but do it. That way no one can get at you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you two more things and I'll let you go.
All right.
So I'm hearing all the stuff on Spotify today, and I'm like, this word comes to mind. I hate it because it sounds like something that a blog should write, but it's like angelic voice and stuff. and part of that reason I thought that because I'm like, almost all your tracks have layers. Like I always feel like
so many layers.
You're just throwing voice on top of everything.
Yeah.
And of course reverb to go along with it. But I'm like,
yeah.
I feel like there isn't one part, there might be, but it's like one track voice. It's always like, the army of views coming. Like,
that's so
is that
true.
a conscious decision, I guess?
It's a conscious decision. I don't know if it's because that's what I'm comfortable with, and because like at my core and like for so many years, I have been so scared to show my voice and have had that stage fright. I honestly think that I started with that style because of my fear of that just feeling exposed. And that's why even on stage, I don't like it when it's just a dry vocal coming back at me from my monitor with no tracks.
Yeah. You did ask for reverb in the check or something, yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I like sound check.
Yeah, I like it because it's mostly because of my confidence, and that's what helps me get lost in the music.
Okay.
But I think the same is probably true when I'm making the songs that, although I think on this album, I think that I have a couple songs where I thought, wow, that's like the most minimal I've gone. It's not like, it's probably not a crazy difference, but
it's like there's 3 of me now instead of 10.
There's me and a pitched down version of me.
Okay.
I have some cool little
there's
moments.
The Houston in you.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a joke now that there's like some man that comes and records with me because I love to pitch down my voice.
Got you.
And either chop it up or like layer it, to where it sounds almost like a male female layered unison vocal.
Did you do that in the newer song, or was this song tonight? I heard it in one of your songs. You
It's probably in. It's in one of the newer songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that a lot, and I love to chop my voice up and treat it as an instrument. I don't know. Yeah, that's just somehow that's kind of the path that I've gone down, and I still like it. I did it on this album too.
That's what's up.
The Army.
All right.
The MIEARS Army.
That's cool though, because that gives you a unique sound, and it's like, all right, that's what I'm gonna sound like, at least for the studio recordings. That's what I'm gonna sound like.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool, like in my live setup, to isolate those vocal samples of mine and like, right now I feel like my live. Because I do use Ableton for the live set.
Yeah.
And right now it's pretty basic because I'm mostly on the mic and I'm playing. So I don't have a lot of time to mess with either samples or... I do a little bit of like reverb and delay on like the master.
Hey man, you're playing, dude. That's more than a lot of us do. So don't be like, I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah. But it would be fun to have like a sample pad and like play some of those vocal samples just to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or have my drummer do it.
Like me. He's like, I don't need more work. He's like
We've talked about, because he can't always play with me. He drums for
is it a jazz band or something?
Is it 3 other? 2 other. I don't know. Multiple other acts in Houston. And so sometimes he's busy or I'm traveling. Like I flew to New York and played, and so he can't always come with me. But I was like, when the album comes out, it'd be cool to tour, and it'd be cool if we could both fly. Because I have fun playing with him. It's cool when he can come. It's just a different dynamic. It's fun to have on stage.
I've only seen you with him, so I kind of expect that. So one of these days, it might just be you. I'm going to be like, it sucks.
Yeah. It's just a different dynamic, but it would be cool to have like a lighter setup where he wouldn't have to haul his entire kit.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, let's figure out a pad and like, let's put you on a synth.
Oh, man.
And let's give you some samples to play or something like that.
You're going to get rid of all his drums.
Yeah.
He'll still be drumming, but it's going to be.
I'm like, you can dance, you can play synth. Yeah, I'm going to put him to work.
Got you. I can see you like in the future too, like maybe playing with like, I don't know if they're called this, but those harmonizers where like the rest of your voices come out in different chords.
Yeah.
Or different notes to form chords.
Yeah, those different
you said you sang a cover of Imogene Heap. So.
Yes, kind of like that. Yeah. Exactly. I will be. Well, there's flute in my new album as well.
Oh, bring back the young skills.
I'm bringing back the flute. I'll definitely play it live. I think that'd be a really fun thing to add to the live set too. I don't want to be too gimmicky and like pull out.
How's playing an instrument gimmicky? That's where we at right now? Is that where we at right now?
I don't know. You know what I mean?
What like losers. He's playing keyboard.
When you got, when it's strapped onto you and then you're like, because there was a time where
it also stands out. It's unique.
That's true, yeah. It is hard to bend over and play certain things with it because at one point I was going to have a sample pad and play drums as well. Didn't end up doing that, but I think flute will work.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, this will be the last one.
All right.
I'm a big fan of. So I was hearing the album today. I feel like the last. Oh God, I just switched to the camera. I feel like the last 3 songs were my favorite.
Yeah.
Echoes, He Never Loved Me, and Cycle. And where I'm at right now, it's fun. I grew up in hip hop. I used to hear everything lyrics first.
Yeah.
And once I don't make music till my 20s, so now I'm reverse. I kind of can't. I hear the voice as an instrument, but I kind of don't know what anyone's talking about.
Right.
So what are those 3 songs about? I think I can guess He Never Loved Me. But I mean, everything else, what are the 3?
Yeah, I tend to write a lot about relationships and heartbreak for sure.
Okay.
And I can put a name to every song, and I know exactly
You don't have to do that. You can, but you don't have to do
I won't do it. I know exactly who those songs are about. Echoes and He Never Loved Me are about the same person and the same kind of time period with that person. And Echoes was just kind of like, so the person that I wrote it about was kind of going through kind of a depression and or kind of this time where they're being extremely distant from me, and promises that they once, told me were kind of just gone. Like if you asked questions about, hey, but what about the things we talked about in the past? It was like, I don't know. I don't know anymore. So it was like just total emptiness. And so I was Googling like, how to, just like a basic Google search, how to deal with someone who has depression. Because when you're not the person that has depression, it's really hard, and you I don't know, it's like you don't want to take it personally because you know that they are struggling. Yeah. So you want to find a way to like empathize with them and understand where they're coming from. And I just remember reading like multiple people's stories of being the one that wasn't the sufferer of depression, but the one on the other end. And so I read about this one particular woman's story where she and her, I don't know if it was boyfriend or husband, built a house, and they were going to be moving into it together. And he, whatever triggered it, fell into a deep depression. And she basically said that this house that they built never filled with furniture. It was completely empty. And this bright, awesome future that she thought she had with him in this house that they physically built and that was standing there, they never put furniture in, and it was just an empty place. And so it was like so symbolic of just like these empty promises and how quickly that all of that can be taken away from you from either a mental illness or depression or whatever happens, and whatever drives that wedge between what you thought was your future. That's what Echoes is about. And it's just like that questioning, like why have I wasted my time? Because it's, like I said, it's so hard not to take it personally. And I had to do a lot of educating of myself to understand how to not do that. So that's Echoes. And He Never Loved Me was in the exact same time period. And that was more of my like immediate angry reaction to dealing with this person and what was going on. And just like, just like totally bitter. Just like, he never loved me. Like, it's just exactly what it means, Sure. It's a complete, just natural reaction to how that was feeling. And then Cycle is about another person, and that was a very toxic relationship. And overall, I feel like the whole EP is really about codependency, and which is something I've struggled with, where I'm basically trying to. I feel like I've always tried to kind of mold myself to a person. And I always tend to attract people that are struggling through something, and I'm always that one that's, what can I do for you? And kind of losing myself in that. And so I've definitely experienced that a handful of times. And this particular story with Cycle was just that like toxic, just the cyclical nature of how if you can't get yourself out of those kind of toxic cycles and relationships, it's just saying like, I needed you again to fill my shallow breath. Needed you to fill my emptiness. Just that codependency on one another. And, it's unhealthy. And it's like saying, we've said a dozen goodbyes, but here we are the 13th time. So, and it's just Bars. Like that horrible cycle of like, basically being mentally trapped in this toxic relationship, and you don't really know why. It's just codependency and addiction to it, and addiction to a person or to a behavior. And I feel like I liked that I ended it on that note, because it's a relationship that really stuck with me and affected me in a lot of negative ways. And basically the entire next album talks. That's how impactful that whole situation has been on me, even to this day.
Damn.
Very, very bad, very toxic. And I just wrote a lot about it. This album's called Hanging On. I wrote it from...
Does it have a date?
I think probably by the time I have mastered audio, I think mixing where the target is August, so mastering will probably be sometime in the fall. And I think by the time I kind of figure out the avenue of how to release it, I'm guessing kind of a winter release. Getting the art together, I have like the photo for the art. I know what I want it to look like. So I'm working with actually my bandmate from BLSHS. He's also a great graphic designer. And one of the posters that I gave y'all, he did as well.
That's going to be something I have to ask you on the next one too, is the art, because I wanted to touch on this whole 80s retro.
Yeah.
But don't talk about it.
Okay, we're going to have a deep dive.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about a lot of things.
But where can they find you online?
You can find me on all, social media platforms. The key is just spelling the name. I always say it's MIEARS.
Yep.
MIEARS. I post almost every day, especially to Instagram. I will always be updating that platform. But I do keep my show calendar on MIEARSmusic.com as well. But I would say find me on social media, and then music-wise, you can find me on any major streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. I've still got my album or my EP and physical copies up for sale there as well.
All right, last words.
Thank you for driving here to see me, and
man, thank you for doing it.
To me.
Especially since you guys got to drive like 2-ish hours or maybe more.
You do too.
Oh no, I get like an hour and a half.
Oh, an hour and a half. Okay, that's not as
maybe
bad.
Maybe longer, because I might have to go to North Austin for these next people. So.
Yeah, see, you're doing another... We're going to be hitting the road soon. So be very safe. And I definitely would love to talk to you again, and maybe I can come to San Antonio.
I'll get like the whole life story. That's why they're longer, because I like... Yeah, man.
I can talk.
I'm a long... And I noticed. This is great. That's why I shut up.
I know. Sometimes I worry. I'm like, I'm talking too much.
No, it's great. The less I talk, that's the whole point. No one wants to see me. They got like 60 episodes of me.
There are a lot of episodes of you, but yeah, it's for a reason.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing it. Bake that chicken, smoke that turkey. Boosh. We out. Follow me